And welcome to the first Rich the Revenue Live. We're going to be talking about how to scale your business.
Yep. And towards the end, if we have chance, we'll try and get some questions from you guys or for our followers on the social media there. We are going live on all platforms, so that's a first.
And hands up, any small business owners out there, because we know that it's really challenging at the minute. Any small business owners? Yeah. So, going to open it up. Can the guests tell us a little bit about themselves and the size of their business?
Hello. Oh, that's loud, isn't it? Yeah. Tom Arnold. My company is Topgrass. I'm also chair of the UK Lawn Care Association. So we have a business based in two depots, one based in Essex Herts border, and one based not far from here near Rugby. We have approximately 7,000 customers and 31 people in the business.
I just pass the mic down then.
Good afternoon. My name's Mark Walsh. I run a business called The Lawnologist. We're fairly new in service, a couple of years old, but we have seen really positive growth in those 2 years. I'm based in North Essex, South Suffolk, and my niche is generally larger lawns, larger than your standard domestic lawn. And we're kind of going through a period of growth at the moment, so it's good to be here to have a chat about it. And I shall pass you over to Richard.
Hi there, my name is Richard Salmon. I run a business called Pro Lawn Care UK. I'm probably at the other end of the scale to Mark in the fact that I ran a lawn care business for about 20 years, sold that a few years ago, and I just now get involved in training existing businesses and also people who want to start up in business. So I mainly run a training and consulting firm now, and I have no employees.
Hi there, I'm Jim Hewlett. I run a lawn care company called Lawn Tech. We're based in Salisbury, Wiltshire. We've been in business now for about 18 years, employ 20-something people. And we cover the areas of Wiltshire, Hampshire, Dorset, Somerset, Surrey and Berkshire.
Oh, very good. Thank you. This question's mainly for Richard. So it's what plans or structures can or should you put in place to facilitate scaling?
Well, good question. If you're going to scale, it's obviously got to be the right time for you to scale. And that is either a gut feeling or you're so busy that you cannot run the business on your own and you need to go to the next level. So I think if you're going to plan to scale, then have a plan to start with. And that would involve either a business plan from a financial point of view and a marketing plan to make sure that if you are going to scale, can you increase the turnover to cover the costs of any new costs you're going to have, whether it be staff and van and everything else. So I think having a structure, having a business plan, and also making sure if you are going to employ somebody, you employ the right people who can best represent your business and help you grow the way you want it to grow. In terms of other plans, you're probably going to have to increase your turnover quite significantly to cover the cost of the new employee or the new structure and the scaling process. So just be prepared to accept that it's going to be tough to start with because that person that you bring into the business or the way you scale your business isn't suddenly going to cover those costs of that person. But you just got to have a plan in place that you know you can generate extra income because you know you've got a gut feel. If you're in business, you're probably an entrepreneur and you've got a gut feel that it's the right thing to do to grow your business, and getting the right people in place, getting the right structure, and making sure you have the management in place in terms of the software to help run your business, because all of a sudden you could become quite busy, and the block to you becoming successful might be that the software in place isn't capable of managing your business the size you want it to become. So have that structure in place to start with as well, and just give some thought as to how you're going to grow and make sure you've got a plan, whether it be a 1, 2, 3 or 5 year plan, but have a structure in place and you'll know whether it's the right thing to do or not, but be prepared to put the work in and prepared to invest in it as well.
I think that leads into question 3, and this is going to open this up for all the group. How has your marketing strategy evolved as you've grown your business?
Okay, so how's our marketing strategy evolved?
Yeah.
Okay, good question that, because it really does evolve. depending on the size of your business, and how fast you want to scale, and also the age that you're in. So when we started marketing 18 years ago, we didn't have digital marketing. Okay, not really. So we would be depending on putting big page-sized adverts in glossy gardening magazines, and lawn care in those days was quite new. So you really did get sort of a result. Whereas if you look at the modern day sort of marketing scale, a lot of it's gone quite digital. There's quite a lot more competition in the marketplace. So what you have to decide on to start with is, how far will my budget go? I think there's, even for the biggest businesses in the world, there's never enough budget, is there, for marketing, no matter what industry you're in. So what you have to do is think about my business, how fast do I want to scale, and what tests lots of different marketing initiatives, see what works for you for the best value, so report on your results, and then once you know what works for you, maybe concentrate your budget in that area to scale up.
So, being a bit newer to the industry than you are, Jim, again, echoing what you were saying about digital marketing, I had a small budget when I started that hasn't really increased, but what I have learned to do is leverage social media. So, for someone that's looking to scale an existing business, I would say just make sure your social media profiles are optimized. Make sure you've got a good online presence. Make sure you're hamming them reviews in, asking your clients who do a good job, ask for a review, ask for referrals, and just really learn to have a good online presence, because we live in a day and age where people are hyper-informed. And if they see a post on your Facebook page, on your YouTube, on your Instagram, they're going to stalk you. It's just what people do. They'll Google you, they'll look for your personal page, make sure everything's sanitised and professional. And you can very quickly build momentum by doing that, and it costs you nothing in organic growth to be able to do that. So with my business, I don't really invest too much in magazine adverts. I don't really invest at all in actual Google ads. And I certainly don't do mail drops or mail shoots. I don't think the churn rate versus the cost is that good.
That's right.
For me, anyway. What we do is we leverage our online presence with Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. They all serve a different purpose. And the other thing we do is we actually go out and door knock, because we niche in larger lawns and larger properties. We will go smart and we will start to create conversations. We might not necessarily be trying to sell to them, but just having conversations, letting people know we're in the area. Would you like to go on our waiting list? Create a sense of urgency. What you tend to find is once you land a few big customers, your ideal big customer knows another ideal big customer, and that's where your referrals come in. So our marketing's a little bit different. It's mainly social media and then being targeted and delivered with our canvassing.
I think everybody's covered it very well. I would just add, I think you've mentioned referrals. Referrals are a really, really important source of new customers, and it's important to have some kind of program running which encourages and accelerates referrals.
I'm going to ask, what methods do you use to get your referrals, or when's the best time to ask a customer for a referral? Yeah.
Any time, I'd say, providing you haven't done something wrong. Yeah, any time. I think we pick our moments. We like to ask in person, and generally what we would say is it's off the back of a compliment from them. They're saying, we're really happy with what you've done. Thank you very much, Mrs. Miggins. If you're very happy with what we've done, would you be kind enough to offer a referral on Google? I'll send you the link.
Yep.
It will mean an awful lot as a small business, and it really helps us grow. And generally, that's received quite well. And more often than not, that'll result in a nice review.
Yep.
Just to add to a referral program, so we run a referral program where if we do get a referral from a customer that results in another customer, then both new customer and existing customer will get a credit back on their account as a thank you, and that does work very well. But what is more important is about that communication, and we run regular mailing campaigns through the year just to try and encourage referrals, and pretty much we put it on every piece of literature that we send to a customer encouraging referrals. So I would definitely make the most of referrals.
And I'll just add one point to that. In terms of the timing of the referral, it's always good to ask for referrals all the year round, but probably ask for referrals or up the ante when the lawns are looking at their best. So probably April, May, almost have an enhanced referral scheme, because that's the time when the lawn's looking its best. That's the time where people may be having friends around for a barbecue. So that'd be an ideal opportunity for them to say how good my lawn looks and it's being looked after by ourselves or whatever.
Yeah, there's not much I can add to that other than it's important to remember really that referrals are likely to be the best value new customer you're going to get. Okay, so the first thing is marketing is expensive, as everybody knows. With the referrals, even if you are paying a referral fee, tends to be the best cost per acquisition you're going to get, which is great. We all want that, and also people that come from a referral are likely to be those customers which stay with you a lot longer. They're going to give you the most long-term value because they came from a happy place in the first place. So, I would recommend any business which is starting up to, before they do any form of marketing, referrals would be the very first thing that I would concentrate on.
You have touched on this slightly, but which digital marketing channels are best for your business, or do you find best for your business? I know you have sort of covered some of this, but
well, what's the best digital channel is going to depend a lot on your individual business. Some geographical areas respond better to different digital channels. So again, it goes back to what I said before. Do try a bit of everything, test it, see what gives you the return. In my experience, that's the way to go. And it might depend on the time of the year. Some things work better at different times of the years. You'll get better results as well, depending on how reactive your targeted audience is.
You're skipping this one, Richard. So I use Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, but the Instagram, the Facebook, and YouTube do have slightly different purposes for me. Instagram is very much visual, but it is linked to my Facebook page, so you'll find that what goes on Instagram, my business, goes on my Facebook page. Every time I put a post on, I'm thinking sales. There'll be some sort of hook. There'll be some sort of not necessarily an obvious sales hook, but something that we're doing that other people aren't. I do use YouTube, and the reason I use YouTube is that's kind of like my back catalogue of product. So when we're talking to a client and we're starting to talk about lawn renovations or aeration or scarification, sometimes it's easier to refer them back to a YouTube link of a video you've made for them to say, look at this. This is kind of the last renovation we did on a lawn with sandy soil. This is the results we got. It almost helps sell my product as well. So I tend to use my YouTube as a catalogue, and I use my Instagram, my Facebook as an advertising platform.
I think everybody else covered it fairly well. I'll just add, we use, as part of our marketing, direct mail. We used to use it a lot more back at the beginning, which was something like 18 years, 20 years ago nearly. And it worked very well, and it helped us get it established. It doesn't quite work as well nowadays, but it still works well for us. And in a targeted way, I still think direct mail has an important place for us.
Right, moving on to leadership now. How has your leadership styles evolved as you have scaled?
Leadership's important. You do need strong leadership to grow a company, I believe. But there's only so much one person can do. So I think Richard touched on it earlier, actually. It's important to get great people working in your business to help you grow. The managing director or the CEO needs to be a strong leader and a fair leader, But once you start getting managers and people that are going to influence your business, you've got to choose some really strong people to do that. And then that will help the business grow. So delegation is the key thing to strong leadership, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think one of the mistakes I made in the early years of running my business when I was doing lawn treatments, I tried to do too much myself. And that's really important, as Jim has said, is to delegate. And the advice I was given, which wasn't too difficult to follow, but always employ somebody who's cleverer than you. And they will help you develop your business quicker than you can. But I think the key is don't try and do it yourselves and enlist help of good people around you.
This is quite a good point, actually, because my business is considerably smaller than Jim's and Tom's. And so I've only got one person to delegate to, so I get in danger of putting too much on him. But what I've learned, it's been quite a tough learning curve for me over the last 2 years, because my background is service-based. I was an ex-police officer, so you can imagine that in certain situations, your management style is very different to what would be acceptable in everyday life. And obviously, if someone does something wrong, you can't go and stuff them in the back of a lawn care van. You kind of have to be a little bit more diplomatic. So I've had to relearn my man management skills quite rapidly. But again, I think certainly with a small business that's scaling at a rapid rate, you can only delegate so much. And you have to get to a point where you have to outsource and have a little think about what can you outsource to free up more time to work on your business more rather than in it more. And that's kind of where we're at now. So, and that can even be, when I say outsourcing, it doesn't necessarily have to be something business related. Can you get a cleaner in to help you do your housework to free you up a bit more, to give you a bit more headspace? Can you outsource your bookkeeping? Can you outsource your van management? That's what we do. And what that does, that enables two of us to actually service 16 hectares of lawns between us per treatment period. So there's efficiencies you can make. And I would say that delegating is good, but if you're small, you can only delegate so much. Maybe outsourcing to begin with is the best way to grow your business more efficiently.
Okay, I'm at the end of the line here, and it's been said already. I would just add that as a leader, I think you've got to recognise the areas where you're not strong, and be open and honest about that, and find people who are strong in those areas to help the business work.
So we all know. Anyone that runs a small business knows how hard it is to recruit and get the right key staff. So what things you put in place to get and keep your team members, to get the right team members and keep them?
Okay, this is a massive challenge, Robbie, and we could talk about this all day. But I would certainly say I talk to a lot of lawn care businesses and business outside lawn care, and recruitment and retention is massively challenging. So I think you have to work very hard on the culture of your business. You have to work very hard on making sure your own team is very happy with what you're doing as a business and enjoying what they do. And I think that helps when you come to recruit people as well, because when they come to see you, they and talk to you, your other members of staff, they see that and recognise that, and hopefully find it as a good place to come to join. But this is a big subject. I mean, in terms of recruitment avenues, we use Indeed, like pretty much everybody else does, and there's a lot of work you can do on Indeed to try and get your adverts targeting the right people. We are very much looking for the right attitude rather than the right set of skills. We can teach people skills, but we can't change attitudes. So we're looking for the right attitude.
Yeah, I think I'd echo what Tom said there. It's very, very difficult to find the right person, and I think I would concur with what Tom has said. If you can hire attitude, you can train the greenkeeping side of things. But where do you go to find these people? And there are Indeeds and various sort of employment recruitment companies out there. But employing the right staff is key to your business. And we've all made mistakes, and we think we've employed the right person. But if they leave, it leaves a big hole, and it takes a lot of time to find the next person to fill that hole. So trying to get it right isn't easy, but all you can do is just do the best you can.
Yeah. you've got to be fussy, I think. You've got to be hard on yourself as a employer to really try to find the right people, and that can take a long time. You know, we take normally at least 6 months to find a new lawn care technician, and we don't get it right all the time, but we're fairly successful at keeping people once we've got them. I think we pay them as much as we possibly can. I think money's important, but it's not easy in our industry. You cannot compete with maybe higher paid industries, but what we try to do is to pay top of the market money for our staff if we can, because we know, like everybody else just said, it's so hard to find good people and to give them a good reason to stay with you. And we also try to empower our staff and give them responsibilities. I think that's so important to make people feel valued in the business once you get those people on board. So yeah, absolutely, I totally reiterate, it's a very challenging subject in our industry, be it lawn care, landscape, anything in the amenity. I believe is very difficult.
So, as the business has grown,
Mark, have to go.
oh, have you got? No, he bypassed it.
All right.
So, as your businesses have grown, how have you maintained the standards, like a high standard?
I think that comes down to the standards that you put in place, and you have to measure the performance of your staff and give staff the responsibility that they are to look after a certain number of lawns, and you can score the lawns in terms of marks out of 10. You just got to be able to to make your staff accountable that they're not cutting corners, and the proof of the pudding's in the eating. Are your customers staying with you, and are they referring more of their friends and family to use you? So you just got to keep the standards up, and that means monitoring staff and also monitoring lawns as well to make sure that you are achieving the results that you've set out to achieve.
Yes, we have what we like to call a healthy paranoia about standards dropping. So one of our what we think is our key differentiators in our region is our high standard of service. So we're healthily paranoid about that stopping, but things do go wrong, and I think the culture we try and breed in our little business is if things go wrong, that's fine, but we learn from them and we can reflect on them. We don't make the same mistakes again. We make the same mistake twice, and that's a different issue. But really, for us, it's what we call our healthy paranoia. I think that's all I can add on that, really.
I think when you start employing a number of people, then you've got to have all the different metrics and measurements in place for sure. But above all, unless you have the right culture in place, it's not going to work. No matter how much you measure people or how much you say to people you're doing it the wrong way, you've got to start off with the right culture, which is all about doing the best for the customer, doing the best possible job. So I'd say culture amongst the team is critical to maintain those standards as you grow the business.
Yeah, I think the main thing is, for me, you've got to set the standard in the first place. You know, if I brought in a new employee into my business and the machinery was junk, the vans were a rusted heap, the office was a mess, they've got no standard to keep in the first place. So if I've set the standard and I want it immaculate, and I'm going to give them the best equipment, the best facilities, the best software, then I expect them to keep it that way. And I think that once you've set that initial standard, and then you set up a framework, standard operating procedures, once your staff know that's what's expected of them, then I think they find it easier to follow that standard. And then make them accountable as well. You know, like if your staff won't keep to that standard, then have a policy in place to find out why. And, you know, if they can't keep it, well, cheerio. Yeah.
You're touching something there. What do you think the best software is to run your business, or what software do you have in place to run your businesses?
Well, firstly, you've got to have some software.
Yeah.
You can manage it for so long on Word or Excel or Google Calendar or something, but you do need some software that not only helps you schedule and manage your customers, but also is a marketing tool as well. So I'm not here to promote any particular type of software, but the software that I've used for many years is a product called Service Assistant from Real Green, which is an American product, but it's been anglicised over many years and is used by a lot of lawn care companies in the UK. But there are plenty of other, or not plenty, there's about 2 or 3 other software alternatives, but in my opinion, not as good as the Service Assistant. But I'm sure Mark will tell you about one of the software that he uses.
There's a lot of business in here that want to scale.
Yeah. So I think certainly when you're thinking of scaling and starting to move up, then you do need some sort of software for sure, whether it's routing software to record your chemical applications, to make sure you know what you guys are doing. Real Green and Service Assistant is very good, but there are others out there, and I actually use Jobber. Now, for me, Jobber it's a simple system which suits me because I'm quite a simple creature. It's not that technical, but I couldn't operate my business without it. And again, going back to what we were talking about, outsourcing and delegation, well, my CRM system, and I think the same as maybe yours does, Richard, will partially do my bookkeeping for me and my invoicing as well. So actually having a good system in place makes your day more efficient. And certainly as a manager or a business owner, you can also monitor what everyone else is doing through that system. So for me, it's Jobber. As I say, it's not quite as lawn care specific as some of the others out there, but it certainly does a good job for me.
Very quickly, we use Real Grain. We signed up with Real Grain back in 2006 and have used it ever since. We use pretty much every module on there, and it is very lawn care specific. It's an American system, and there's some Americanizations in there. You have to work around a little bit, but it does work, and it certainly helps us run our business as it was nearly 20 years ago, and today as our business is today, with a lot more technicians, a lot more customers and people involved.
So there's a lot of small businesses out there, sorry, I missed. I'm a bit keen.
I don't think any CRM is perfect. Sometimes the CRM that you use, the software that you use, is only going to be as good as the work that you put into it to set it up to work for you. We use Service Assistant as well. We adopted it at a similar time to Tom at Topgrass back in about 2006, and it's a very different software now to what it was then. So all these types of softwares, they're always evolving, they're always improving, and you need to find a way to make your business grow with it. I'm sure Jobber has even grown well in the last few years. I use Jobber for my landscape company, and I use Service Assistant for my lawn care company. So both great softwares, as I say. And the main thing is you need something, that's for sure. You cannot run a successful business without it.
I'll come in at the right time now. So there's a lot of small businesses out there, or people wanting to start a small business. If you were starting again, is there anything that you would change?
Or for the people that are in the room and they're watching, they're obviously here because they want to learn how to scale a business. What would you do? What would you do differently?
Okay, I think in some respects, obviously, I've said at the beginning, people are absolutely key to a successful business if you're going to scale that business. And I think I would probably, if I'm looking back, I would probably reach decisions a bit quicker about whether it was a right fit between our company and that other person than I did do. I think sometimes I tended to try and help people fit into the business when they didn't really fit. And that you really get through experience. Anything else to do different? Not too many things. I think one piece of advice, just Richard touched on it, but I think if you're starting a business and you're looking to scale it up, a good business plan is really important. To have a detailed profit and loss by year for the next 5 years as a forecast that you measure yourself against is really key, and that will help you make critical decisions about when to take on new people or buy a new van, etc., etc. So those things are very, very key. I did that with my business partner at the time, and it worked, I have to say, very well for us.
Again, I think going through this at the moment, I'd refer back to the things I've learned over certainly over the last 8 months since my business has, well, maybe the last year since my business has really accelerated. I think for me, I'd say get your foundational work right. So work out, and this is what I did, and it worked very, very well for me. If you can niche within your sector, then do so. It makes you more of a specialist. So, for example, my niche is large domestic lawns, interstately lawns. That's my niche, and that works very well. I would then work out who you want to serve, equally work out who you don't want to serve. Just as important.
Learn to say no.
Yeah, learn to say no. Yeah, and then work out where you want your van. Where do you want to be seen, and how do you want to be perceived, and build upon that. And then once you work that out, hang around in the right places where your ideal customer community sits, and you'll soon find that business will be easier to grow. That's a little process that I followed, and it has worked very well for me, and still does. So.
Yeah, I think things are very different now starting a lawn care business than when I started one in 2000. Lawn care was even more in its infancy back then, and there was so few people I was able to talk to, and I sort of made good acquaintances with Jim and Tom back in those early days because we needed people we could talk to and learn from. I think now we're in a very different situation. There's so many more people within the industry, and there's so much more available on social channels and the media to learn. So I think it's learn from others, listen and take advice, and don't be frightened to grow your business when you think there's a market to go for, because certainly in lawn care, we are seeing growth year on year, but I still think there's a lot more growth to come once the media gets hold of the fact that lawn care companies exist. So I think the main summary would be ask advice, join associations like the UK Lawn Care Association, because there's lots of really good experienced people within that industry that can help you avoid the mistakes maybe that I made in the early years because I was trying to do it on my own without advice.
Yeah, what advice would I give? What would I do different? I think that would depend on how you want to scale. So if you really want to scale your business, you're going to have to take bigger risks. You're going to have to take more chances. And like Tom said at the start, you need a business plan to do that. But, the bigger the risk might bring better rewards, or it might be the worst thing you ever did. So who knows, right? So I would say have a plan. And yeah, this business is fairly mature now to where it was almost 20 years ago when we started. So I would be looking to diversify in some way. Like Mark said, find your niche. And we're a service company. We service lawns. But what's to say you couldn't add other services to your business to scale it up and to do slightly different things, to bring homeowners, a great quality service. So I would definitely keep an open mind if I was going to do things differently now. I was saying to my wife, if I could be 20 years younger, I'd be trying all sorts of things. But I ran out of time. Yeah.
On that note, so we're gonna, because I appreciate the bar is going to be open soon. So yes. We're going to open up the audience. Has anybody got any questions for the panel that they want to? Yeah. Go ahead, Jim.
You all mentioned questions about Jobber and all that, etc. Is QuickBooks good for scaling? Because that's what I use. Or can you do both?
Okay, so I think most of us probably have the equivalent of QuickBooks. We use Xero, but we use a different software to actually manage the customers. So things like Xero and QuickBooks, for me at least, are not enough in terms of your management of your customers for this business. I think for other businesses that might well work, but for lawn care, you need something more integrated with lawn care to manage all those contacts with the customers?
See, actually, I started with QuickBooks. I started with QuickBooks and a diary. And when I moved to Jobber, I found that Jobber can sync in with QuickBooks quite nicely. So actually, all your customers you keep on QuickBooks will sync into Jobber when you go into Jobber. So everything transfers over. Every time you raise an invoice in Jobber, it then gets raised in QuickBooks as well, and it syncs. There's a few hiccups along the way, but once you've got your head around that, actually, what I do is I have Jobber. I use it for my routing, my chemical records, my customer records, my notes, my photographs, all the data that I keep on my clients is on Jobber. My invoicing goes from Jobber, pings over to QuickBooks, and is then picked up by my bookkeeper, my accountants that do my bookkeeping. So essentially, I kill 3 birds with 1 stone. My bookkeeping's taken care of. I've outsourced that out to the bookkeepers, and my routing's taken care of by Jobber.
Yeah, we use Xero, having used Sage for many years. Again, your accounts software, you need an account software, obviously. The amount of integration you're going to use depends on the CRM you're using. Jobber is quite good at just exporting straight over. So yeah, I would say QuickBooks or Xero would be a great choice. Personally, I'm a Xero person, but that's my preference.
Any other questions?
Hi guys, how you doing? Just a wee question in regards to you talking about employing people. You said that you pay them quite well, or you pay them as much as you can. I wanted to know, have you had any experience with people that you've took on leaving you to go and start themselves, and also taking in your customers, and how do you negate that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And of course, when you're employing people, I suppose there always is a chance that they could do the dirty on you, I guess, and then go and start up on their own or try to steal your customers. In the early days, I did have a key employee do that to me. It taught me a pretty valuable lesson about the sort of agreement that I'm going to set up with my employees. We do have a non-competition agreement, but those agreements are pretty weak. They can last for about 6 months. They can hold up pretty well for about 6 months to a year. But after that, you're on your own. But, there is... you've got quite a lot of protection when it comes to data protection, actually, because, as long as you can, when you set out your policies in your company, that, it's a strict no to use other customers' data outside of your business, that can be quite a decent security blanket for you, because they're essentially breaking the law if they do that. Certainly would put in a non-competition agreement if I could find a good solicitor to draft something out for you. But I think, to be honest though, if you're providing a great product or a great service, a lot of the time your customers are going to stick with you, I think, rather than go with the rogue, I guess. So, yeah, but nobody's totally safe in that respect, but you can put a few things in place to sort of protect yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I've got not much more to add to that, but I think you can't stop it happening. But as Jim said, make sure there's something in place that it might deter somebody from leaving you, but also make sure you look after the staff and try and avoid it happening in the first place. But if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. It's happened to me once, but the person who left realised that it was not as easy as we were making it out to be, and he never actually made a go of it in the end. So I don't know if there's any comfort or not, but that can happen sometimes, and it's going to happen and you can't stop it.
Do I have anyone else? No, sorry. Do I have anyone else? just to wake them up.
Hi, just a quick one. It was regarding you're saying about social media for advertising. I was wondering if websites are still something you'd use, or are they a bit outdated now?
No, I'm really into my website. I try and make sure my website's up to date with everything it needs to be. What I tend to do with, so if I do generate a Facebook ad, quite often I will direct that ad through to my landing page. So then captures the data that then gets emailed to me into our business inbox. You have to think, I think of my website a bit like my shop window. Going back to what I was saying about people are hyper-informed and like to stalk you online. They'll check everything. They'll check your Facebook, they'll check your Instagram, they'll check your website. So in my mind, your website is just as important as a key part of your online presence.
Any other questions? Yep.
Yeah, hi. It's a bit quite loud, that isn't it? Yeah, for the small businesses who grow really fast, and soon you realise you need 5 vans. Each van needs a scarifier, each van needs a spreader, each van needs stock aerator. What do you do when that happens? Do you actually just share machinery, or do you have to invest? And how do you fund that investment growing?
So I try and do a thing called managed growth. So we'll grow a little bit, we'll then work out how we can do that, and then we'll buy equipment as we need it. We've just recently invested in a third van, but the first 2 vans, the first van was my van that I kitted out when I first set up. As I was going along and I was getting busier, I was just starting to slowly buy other bits of equipment as I found them online, whether they were new or whether they were second hand. And I was gradually building up an armoury ready, knowing that I was going to get another tech at some point. So when he did join me and he was fully trained, and it took about 6 months for us to train him, he was pretty much ready to go. The van was ready, there was a spare scarifier, there was a spare knapsack, we've got 2 aerators. I'm a little bit of a machine hoarder, so if I see a good deal, I generally buy something before I need it. But you have to be clever with that. You can very quickly hold in equipment and stock that you're not going to use, and it's just an asset sat there. So we buy a little bit at a time, really, rather than borrow money or to get ourselves in any debt. We try and do it as debt-free as possible. Sorry.
I think it's a very good question. I think I'll go back to the business plan. The 5-year plan is really important because that should tell you should have those costs in that 5-year plan as to when you're going to scale up. The question is always where you're going to find the money from. And certainly in the first few years of the business, really, I relied on my wife over there working and providing a salary to cover all the costs of the house and everything, and the family, and didn't take much money out while we were investing in that business to grow. And then later on, as you grow, you can use some other things like if you've got good relationships with your customers, you can offer them a discount to prepay for the whole year, and that can add cash flow to the business when you need cash flow. And usually you're buying that kit at the beginning of the year for that season. So various things like that can help.
Yeah, I'd agree. We've scaled up to a multi-van operation. And it depends where you are on that journey. I think when you're starting up a business, there is no cash. So in our case, we borrowed, took the chance, and I'd always try to find a way of putting a big deposit down on everything I bought so that I'm never in negative equity. I think that's key when you're borrowing. And then, again, I will just reiterate what everybody else said. None of it's wrong. It's just finding your way of scaling up. And what we do is it does also take us 6 months to a year to when we've taken a new, say, lawn care technician on, to get that person totally up to speed into his own van or into a new van and into his own round. So you have got that little bit of a buffer then if you haven't got the full amount of equipment to build it up as you're, getting him ready to go, or her. Yeah.
Gonna ask the best places for people to go and get advice if they're thinking about scaling their business. So you guys are all in the UK Lawn Care Association. which you all get together and share information. Is there anywhere else that anywhere else you would recommend people could go to get information about scaling their business?
Absolutely not. It's just the UK LCA, Robbie, the best. Yeah, there's loads of associations and things. Maybe I could pass the question on, but I would really have a look around, get on social media, see what other people are doing.
I'm gonna jump in and say that even having a chat to your local council can be. There can be a lot of really good programs available to from your local council that you're maybe not that aware of. Have a chat with them.
Yeah, I think it depends on what the government's promoting at any particular time, and the change of government might mean there's more help for small businesses, because we do know the government needs more people to be running their own businesses, and there's lots of help out there available for people. But and it's something, I'm not promoting what I do, but I also help people scale businesses. So if they've been going for 1 or 2 years and they want to make the next step, then we can look at the figures and is it viable, and what the platform is in which to go and grow the business, so they're not growing too fast and putting too much pressure on themselves.
Network, network, and network. And that's one of the key things, is start rubbing shoulders with like-minded people in the industry. Not that I want to promo it too much, but the UK Lawn Care Association is perfect for that. You've got a network, you've got people that are sharing best practice. Another good one is the Federation of Small Businesses. I found them really helpful, just certainly in terms of HR matters, wellbeing matters, advice on finance if you need it. So for me, as a business owner, the two probably key organisations that have been fundamental in my growth: UK Lawn Care Association and the Federation of Small Businesses.
And lastly, to round it all off, how do you deal with stress? What are your tips for stress?
I don't.
The bar's open.
The driving range, and just try and switch off the driving range if I can. I think that the difficulty is when you're certainly a business that's younger in service, is you very quickly become immersed in that 7 days a week, and it's really important to have some downtime. I think for me the key thing is I just try and re-immerse myself in my family. My son's a footballer, so I'm his biggest fan, so I go to all of his games, and that's a nice downtime for me. But it is important to give yourself some time to yourself, for sure.
Just to echo, I think family time out is absolutely critical. Otherwise, you will go a little bit nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all have stress. When you're running your own business, you are thinking about work all the time. It's not like being an employee where you can come home at 5 o'clock and forget about it. It is constantly on your mind, but it is important to have downtime. For me, it was go running or biking just to get out of the house and get some fresh air. Not that I didn't get enough fresh air doing lawn care, but it was just a different sort of fresh air.
Yeah, you can avoid stress if you're running a business. Successful business owners tend to be fairly obsessed, to be honest. I think you've got to be somewhat obsessed if you want to do well. With that comes stress, but as you start to develop your business, the first few years, the first several years are probably going to be, full on stress because you haven't got many other people to delegate to. But then as you can start to grow, my advice again is delegation. Give yourself some time to do other things and step back. Sometimes if you step back from running the business, you can really see what's going on. Whereas when you're in the thick of it, you sometimes get a bit snowblind. So I think, delegation, step back, go back in again, have another stressful spell, step back again is my kind of solution, I guess.
Has anyone got any more questions? Just like to think. Oh, go ahead.
How important is the green element in your business to distinguish yourself from the dark side, as I like to call them, the franchises?
When you say the green element, do you mean as in ethically minded or? Yeah, so So we try something actually we're quite big on. We try and be as responsible as possible as we can with certainly with using herbicides and pesticides. We'll only use them if it's absolutely necessary, and then when we do, we will try and spot spray rather than blanket spray. Takes a little bit longer, but actually, in terms of customer perception and us kind of providing the right message, it's really important to us. We're quite big on flora and fauna and everything else like that. We also try where we can to use as much ethically sourced product as we possibly can, organic product. Not only because it environmentally it's good, but also it's actually really beneficial to the lawns anyway. So that's what we do in our business. I don't know what anyone else can add to that, but that's.
Yeah, we've signed up to net zero, so we're looking at all aspects of the business and trying to move the business forward in that way. We're trialing an electric van at the moment. We had that for a year, and we expect that to expand as we go forward in the next few years. We've been looking at a lot of electric equipment today, battery powered, and I can see us moving over to those. We're going to trial some blowers and various other things. Agree totally with use of the various weed killers, etc., that we use. I think over the last 10 years, our use of those products has tumbled for many reasons. One, we're using much lower dose products than we were before. And the other one is that we've made this big shift. I think everybody's made the shift now to spot treating weeds rather than blanket spraying. So there's lots of different shifts that the industry is making to move it in the right direction. Yeah. But there's a lot more to do.
Yeah, it's a great question, actually. My business couldn't cope with battery vans yet. You just can't carry the weight, unfortunately. But, we'll have a chat. For us, it's all around products at the moment. We've been working really hard to work with nature as much as we can using organic-based products. We've developed a research and development area at our depot where we've been working with all of the big fertilizer suppliers and chemical suppliers on testing products so that you really are working with nature, and we've really been looking at the data that comes out of all that. So we're really reducing products and the products that we're using on lawns and soil. And I think the industry can still come a long way yet with green products. We've got today here at Groundsfest, we've been looking at those battery pieces of equipment, battery blowers, battery scarifiers, battery this, battery that. And there's been some impressive prototype machines out there, which I definitely think have got a place in the market. Where the battery stuff was, say, even 5 years ago, it's come a long way. Okay, we're not there yet, but it's certainly grabbing our attention.
Have we any more questions? Nope. That's a wrap. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you to my guests for coming. Brilliant. And here ends my first live Roots of Revenue podcast. Happy days. Thank you.